September 12th, 7 p.m., and I would like to call this meeting of the City of Kyle Ethics Commission to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Rebson,
Here.
Chapa,
Here.
Anderson,
Here.
Pitfer,
Here.
Bigelow Bauer,
Here.
Fahey.
Here.
First item up is citizens' comment. We'll now open the floor for citizens' comment if there's anyone who wishes to speak. Seeing no one, I will close citizens' comment at this time. Next item is the approval of minutes for June 23rd, 2022. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Are there any changes?
No.
No.
Does anyone have a motion?
I move to adopt the minutes from, what is the date?
June 23rd.
June 23rd.
I second.
All right. We have a motion to approve and a second. If there are no more comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The minutes are adopted as presented. We will now begin our general discussion on the revisions to the City of Kyle Ethics Code. I would like to invite Mr. Montgomery up to make some comments to open the meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. So what I've done today is I've gone through the code and just prepared some notes, things that I think could be changed, and I can go through all those, and I'll take suggestions from y'all. The way I think this would be easiest to approach it is I'll take the feedback from all y'all. I'll go over my notes, and if you like the things I've been talking about, I can come up then with a red line version of the code of this. I can take the whole thing and just turn on track changes and change everything that you want to tell me to change. We'll have another meeting sometime in the future that you can then review those changes that I've made, make comments at that time, or accept them. Eventually get down to where we have a red line version that is acceptable to everybody. And then if you approve it, to go onto the council for their approval, because they're the ones that actually have to adopt the changes. You're just making recommendations to them. So it's kind of a work session in a way. And then at the end of this meeting, of course, after the end of this item, I assume that I would have some direction from somebody to go forward with that red line version through the form of a motion. To instruct me to do a bunch of work. So,
Right.
Unless you don't have any changes at all, you want to just keep it the way it is. We can be out of here in a few minutes.
Did you have anything specific you wanted to address first?
Well, should I just go through the whole thing right now?
Yes,
Okay.
I wish you would.
So one of the first things, just starting out in section 2-142, statement of purpose. I have a problem with this just as an attorney and the part where the appearance of impropriety may itself be a conflict of interest. The problem I have with that line, and that's in the second paragraph of that section, the problem I have with that line is that it's open to interpretation. It's somebody else's, what they think may be an appearance of impropriety may not be that way with somebody else. And to say that the appearance itself, if you're not defining what is the appearance. And then if you look into other sections of the code, going down to 2-171, it talks about to avoid the appearance and risk of impropriety. So that's kind of getting into, well, what could constitute an appearance of impropriety are violations of these particular rules. And so unless you're going to, I just think there needs to be some sort of, like, if you can't just say appearance and just leave it at that. It's too broad. And so I would actually, the easiest thing to do is just to strike that sentence, the part that says that appearance and impropriety may itself be a conflict of interest, because that's not I don't think that's a cause of action under the code. And so I would recommend just striking that line, or add some language stating that, saying that this is not an actual cause of action itself, that it has to be rooted in another violation within the code.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you would say that better. Striking, it sounds like a good option to me.
Striking it would be the easiest thing, I think.
Striking just the beginning of that sentence, to
the-
avoid the appearance
no,
and
no.
risk of.
I'm sorry, section 2-142, statement of purpose.
42. Okay.
I mean, that's the thing too, just the heading alone, it's
Yeah.
a statement of purpose.
Yeah.
And I don't think that saying the appearance of propriety may itself be a conflict of interest, and then someone says, oh, I think that looks improper, that's a violation.
Yeah.
Here's my section, I'm saying this is a violation because it's saying it may be a conflict of interest, because I think it looks like it might be one.
It's too broad.
It's too broad. I understand the context of it, what they were trying to say, that the appearance could, but it has to be rooted in an actual violation, I think. If you're going to sit down and actually evaluate a violation or potential violation, you've got to have some concrete facts there. So I would just say, just strike that sentence, which is probably about the middle of that second paragraph.
Okay, I have some questions about that.
Sure.
That it says may, so it may be a violation.
Right.
And that, well, it seems like that, it runs through the whole deal. An appearance of impropriety, like the deal with Sellers. I mean, that was a big appearance of it. And I don't think that's why he's gone, but it was a big thing.
Mhm.
And I think if that's taken out, I don't think it has the same bite.
It doesn't have any effect necessarily. I mean, just saying, because you're right, it's permissive. It's just something that I would hate to see somebody look at that and think, okay, that's a violation in and of itself. Just
But they
say,
could be told, it says may, so
Right.
it's not.
right, I mean,
I just think that this is very vague to start with, very vague. And it's written, well, I think it's written with more wording than is actually needed, because I'm tongue-tied right now. But, this is San Antonio's. Did you know that? It's
I didn't
It's
know.
exactly San Antonio.
Yeah.
And, so it could be streamlined for sure, but I don't know if that's just part of it.
It's up to y'all.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this actually does mirror the state of Texas's code of ethics as well. Some of my research in the past, so it's kind of a model, but there's things we can tweak, obviously. I saw that in there and thought that was something.
Well, the appearance shows up several times, and there are cautions in there
Mhm.
for code of conduct for elected officials and employees that warn them specifically that they should take care to avoid the appearance of impropriety. So it's already covered there.
There's another, in the first, my numbering isn't the same as yours, so it's the first paragraph of section 1, where it says, the code establishes standards of conduct for blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, it says, such as former city officials and employees, candidates for public. I don't know how they can assert that, the rule to people that aren't even employed, unless they're doing something under the table with the commission or with the mayor or something. So I don't know why that would be there.
In terms of why, I couldn't really tell you why necessarily. I know that there's some sections later on that talk about people that are not, like you said, not even employees, they're just doing business with the city or something, but they're otherwise private individuals. They could still do unethical things. I don't know how much teeth this body would have in censuring somebody who's not a employee or something, but yeah, I mean, it can apply to outside parties as well. I mean, again, I think it's more of a statement of purpose rather than what y'all can actually do. I mean, if you're, well, I had to look at the specific remedies, but, let's say, you found that, you know, there was a developer or something like that outside of the city that was doing something shady. I mean, you could, I guess, go after them, but, and I don't know what that would do, how you'd actually be able to accomplish that. And it would just make them look bad, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would be in favor of leaving that line in?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, if we're gonna really streamline this, there's a boatload of things that could be taken out to make it more direct instead of talking around. I don't know, see, I don't know, we didn't really get a clear idea of what, so I was nitpicking. And then when I saw it was like San Antonio's like halfway, and I thought, what the, oh man. So I kind of stopped going through it at that point, because there's a lot of like redundancies or some of the things just aren't clear, and maybe that was the reason, is because it's open for interpretation at each incident.
Sometimes that's helpful,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, this code does give you, as a body, a lot of authority to make your own decisions as you see just and fit. If you take out some of that interpretation language, then it, you know, you're a little more, hands are more tied in the end. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do.
Okay. So you're gonna go through all this, because there's some later
I'm
on.
going to go through what I've
Okay.
noted. That's one that, so, that one line is one that I noted. I mean, we can keep it, we can lose it.
Well, we can have a show of hands if we want to leave that line in or not.
Do we really want to do that now, or just let
Yeah,
them go
we-
through everything? That way, maybe,
Are we
At-
meeting again to go over?
Well, we
Well,
will
I-
have to meet again, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
After we get a red line version.
We can leave that as one to think about.
Yeah. I mean, and I can certainly just put that in my red line version, just take that out, and then when we come back to it,
Yes.
you
Okay.
can then decide. That way, it kind of gives you some more time to think about it, because you're thinking about it
Yes.
right now as I'm showing
Yeah.
it to you, and
Right.
so I can see why it might be important to,
I'd rather hear everything that
Sure.
what your thoughts are first, and then
Me too.
sharing ours.
yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Okay, so I didn't have any problems really with the definitions necessarily. There was one definition I think could be added in. So I'm not sure what version you'll have, but this is the version that's from the code that's published on the website. I think the actual ordinance that was passed is a different numbering system, but I have 2-171, which is the improper economic benefit. Okay.
That's what I have.
It should be the same title, improper economic benefit.
Yeah.
Yes, I have that.
So in that section, A9, and, well, A9, and then A and B, the way that reads, it's just very confusing to me. You have to read A, then you have to read 9, then you have to read A, and then you have to read 1, 2, or 3. I would like to just kind of rework that a little bit. And I didn't really come up with a suggestion on how that would be. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that I would recommend rewording that a little bit, not changing what it's saying necessarily, but just making it more clear and how it reads, so that the violations, potential violations, are more spelled out in case somebody wanted to allege a violation of that section, if that makes sense.
Spell out specifically what would affect the economic interest of all of those items down there, or just some of them?
So if you were to read A and then skip down to number 9, a person or business entity,
Yeah,
and then there's subsection, from whom within the past 12 months the officer or employee or his or her spouse directly or indirectly has, and then you've got solicited, received and not rejected, or accepted an offer of employment, or, and then B, which that B is also under the 9. So it's like, the way it reads, it just jumps around. It's hard for me to really grasp it myself. And I think that anybody reading the code, it may not be very clear to say, this is the rule you're supposed to be following, when you can't really quite understand what that rule is, at least at first glance. And what I want to do is try to make it a little bit easier to understand at first glance, so it doesn't take somebody to have to read it multiple times to understand it. I think it's confusing. I don't know if anybody else feels that way or not, but that's how I think it's a very confusing line.
I
And so
think
all I
it
want
could
to
be
do is just,
broken up into two different
yeah,
categories.
I just want to break it down a little more. That's
Yeah.
all. So I haven't figured out how I'm going to do that yet, but that's one of the things I noted that I wanted to do.
Okay.
I think B could be 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it probably could be separated out. Yeah. Or I think the way it's supposed to read, I think it's for employment. So like solicited an offer of employment, received and not rejected an offer of employment, accepted an offer of employment. Just the way I think that's how it's supposed to be. And I'll look at some other codes. I mean, like again, this is taken from other cities. So, but I think that's how it's supposed to read. And I kind of want to spell that out too. So it's just confusing. So.
I agree.
So that's one thing I'll do. And so down there, C, definitions, for the purposes of this section, I was thinking about adding in a definition of what employment means. Because there's a definition of employee under the general definitions, which talks about any person listed on the city of Kyle payroll as an employee, whether part-time or full-time. Well, I think if, in this context, what is an offer of employment? Does it just encompass people that are like W-2 employees, or is it contractors? Like, what does employment mean under this section? So I think that could be important, given some previous issues we've had. I think that would be just to define what employment means under that section, so it's very clear. That was an idea that I had to just add the definition in there for that section only, not within the overall code, but just that section. And let's see here. So, and this is, okay, gifts, section 2-173, gifts. I put a question by A2, the general rule, a city officer or employee shall not accept or agree to accept any gift or benefit, save and except for items or meals received that are of nominal value. The question I had was whether or not you all would be interested in putting in a dollar amount for what that nominal value is, or just leave it open to your interpretation. I could go either way on that one, but I just saw that and thought that maybe you want to be more specific on that.
I would prefer not to be more specific.
Okay,
And the dollar amounts are subject to inflation anyway, right?
this is very true.
Where is what line are you reading?
So under gifts,
Yeah,
A2,
two, okay,
a
yeah.
city officer or employee shall not accept.
But it also has a dollar amount in there.
Yours has a dollar amount?
Yeah, it has, meals up to $50 or less, and meals accumulative, for a year, $250,
Where did you get this?
straight off the website, the
Off of-
city website.
There's a section somewhere that has a dollar amount.
Yeah.
I saw that.
That's not on my version.
It's not on my version.
Okay,
It may not be in that section, it may be in one of the other sections.
okay.
We covered gifts later on in the code.
It has something with a dollar amount, because I saw that.
But you're reading it under the
It seems like I
section
did
that
see
we're presently
something like
looking
that,
at,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Do you have an ordinance number at the bottom of the page, or
No,
no?
oh, I have, the one I got was, ordinance 581.
Okay, it's been amended twice since that version.
You know, this is still on the web.
It's gonna, like, you can't pull everything off, but there was a link on the agenda packet for the current ethics ordinance.
The one that was sent by you?
I imagine it was
And I
the
saw
one.
a dollar amount, but it wasn't in that section. It was in a different section.
If you go in
I
the
tell you what,
email
why
that he
don't I
sent,
just print
you can
out
link to this one.
6 copies
The
of
one that,
the current.
yeah.
I have the
this
one
was
that
sent out
you
about
sent.
this meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
The email that,
Mine says nominal value.
but
Okay.
A2 says a dollar amount on yours?
No, this is
Oh,
nominal.
okay.
It says nominal.
It was sent on
I
Friday
saw it
from
somewhere
Jennifer Holm,
within the
Ethics
packet,
Commission.
not
Good
necessarily
evening,
with
Ethics
gifts.
Commission.
Okay.
but I did
So
see a
you
dollar
click
amount.
This link, and then when you
Okay.
hit there, you,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly where I'm not sorry either.
Oh, I didn't bring my phone.
I think this is the one you sent to me, created June 22nd. And I think that's the one I emailed out, and I just printed it off.
That's,
today.
yeah, that's the date you downloaded it, I'm sure.
Okay, I know there is a dollar amount on section 2-222 personal seeking discretionary contracts. I know that has a dollar amount. On section A of $100, all political contributions. But I know there was another dollar amount.
Yeah, I see your $100 amount there. What was the other one? Besides 2-222?
There's a on mine, on page 16, out of the 30, section 2-255, items received on behalf of the city is another dollar amount by way of gift value over $100 or loan on behalf of the city.
Okay, I see that one. Gift value.
So would that gift value be different from the other gift values on section 2-173?
It's up to y'all. I mean, I just saw that there was no value put in that section, and that's why I brought it up. I'm fine with leaving it as nominal value, because it's, I mean, but what is nominal to one person maybe not be nominal to another person.
Right.
Well, that would be for us to decide as a group, I suppose. wouldn't it?
Correct, correct.
We should probably leave it the way it is then. Anybody got a problem with that?
I'm only concerned in the fact on with those other ones, which I know one was more of a political donation, and the other one did indicate a gift to the city or a loan being an actual number. I just don't know if, like, since it's very minimal of $100, would we want to be consistent in that aspect?
Well, when you're exchanging cash, you can be very specific. When you're buying meals, you know, that's a pretty wide net.
But I think there should be consistency within the document.
I don't think that it's an apples to apples comparison, though.
But I think it could be, because that's a contribution to a political party or political thing, and the rest is a gift. I mean,
And this is indicating, that on the other section, it was indicating a gift to the city.
Well, that section does say, gift or benefit. So, I mean, it's not necessarily just like saying, giving you a gift card or $100, whatever. It could be some other benefit of nominal value, but when you put a dollar amount on it, I can go either way on it.
generally, would $100 be nominal to you guys?
In
For a
regards
single
to
person
meals.
meal?
Well, for a meal, for one person, because the city's not entertaining a group.
Well, yeah, as an upper level, I suppose you could put that in. Would you like to see anything like that?
Because it's saying save and accept, it's saying accept for items or meals. What is that? Can you clarify that?
so they shouldn't accept or agree to accept any gift or benefit, save and accept for items or meals received that are of nominal value. So is that saying that the only thing that they can get are meals?
That's how I read that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the only thing that you can
Or
get.
items too, there's items as well. but
Yeah, well, I
like
mean,
a
what does item,
gift-
what would
a
item?
gift
what would-
basket. That's
Okay, like a
you know.
food basket. So, I mean, putting a
Thanks.
dollar amount on it, I feel like
kinda
if
like that
something
better.
actually came
Thank you,
to the ethics committee and there was some, $1,000 meal, I think we could all make a judgment that that was beyond the scope of nominal. But I think to everybody's, where you go, a meal is 15, a meal, I mean, and inflation, and when does this get updated every year to then reflect?
It's a good point.
Yeah, I do feel like, I think that if this were to come, we could, as a
decision.
committee, you know, come to an agreement on what we agreed was nominal without maybe putting a dollar amount on it in the code?
I think, just
That's what I
for
would prefer.
Yeah.
a little bit of context on this, I think where you're, a hypothetical scenario that's probably likely to occur, I think they just opened a TIF Streets down the road here. I'm not sure what the going rate is for TIF Streets these days, but, I mean, if someone were to offer a bunch of, a basket of TIF Streets to various members in the city, you know, I don't know what that value would be, but normally things like that are somewhat acceptable as long as it's not, you know, a huge amount. I mean, just having a little treat once a day or whatever, or not once a day, but, you know what I mean? It would be acceptable, but that's where you'd probably see that. And like I said, if they're expensive, I'm not sure what their going rate is, but if it's, you know, $200 for several boxes of cookies, I don't know. I mean, it could change with inflation, like you said.
Right,
so.
yeah, I feel like the situation and timing could cause that to change, and probably should be left to the committee to decide based
Yeah,
on the
I agree with
situation.
that.
And
In my experience, this generally will be something that has to take into consideration when somebody attends a special event. And so there might be more expensive meals that are provided at a fancier event. But in such a circumstance, it's not just the meal that gets qualified into the number that would be considered for this. It would be the overall cost of event. If you've ever, you know, thrown a
Right.
party, it's the chairs, it's the linens, it's that sort of thing that gets thrown in. And I think that we will know exuberant when we see it, versus having an actual number, which could fluctuate. Rubber chicken sometimes costs $16, but sometimes it also costs $54.
You eat much rubber chicken?
That's the politician's favorite meal, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, I still feel like we should leave it up to the commission to decide what's nominal.
I agree.
agree.
Let's leave that the way it is.
Okay. This is, okay, so section 2-176 on page 9, if you have that version. This is another section where I think a definition of employment. Of course, earlier I stated that defining employment for that one section would work, but and I forgot about this too. I saw this too. I'm thinking maybe there should be a definition for employment for this context as well. Again, does it include contractors? Is it W-2 employees? That sort of thing. And I can figure out how to work that in either with this section or just an overall definition for the entire code. But that's something that I noticed, and I'm just pointing it out because that's another area that could be an issue if the council just lets somebody have outside employment. I think we need to define what that is.
Okay.
And that's more of just an FYI. It builds off of what I said earlier, so I'll move on. Page 11, section 2-181. Persons required to report, time to report, place to report. This had my wheels turning a little bit. Reading A, a city officer or employee who has knowledge of a violation of any of the provisions of this ethics code shall report this violation as provided below within 15 business days after the person has knowledge of a violation. I'm wondering if there needs to be, added in there the term personal knowledge. This is kind of a, personal knowledge would be more specific. You're going to say that this person has, that they witnessed it themselves.
So it's
or
firsthand
they had-
knowledge.
Exactly. Whereas knowledge could be based on a rumor.
Right.
And so
Right.
this section's about requiring other parties to report something that they might have heard, essentially. And that's why I thought, well, maybe personal knowledge should be added in there rather than just knowledge.
Yeah, you don't add fuel to a rumor. That's good. I like that.
I know, but sometimes that's when investigations start, is when someone hears something and they didn't actually see the action, but they hear it and there is something there, where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think that it needs to be vague in that way.
And I think that having knowledge, just general knowledge, maybe you should file a report. But this is about, this could cause somebody to be subject to a complaint because they didn't act, because they had knowledge. And that's where I'm having trouble with that, because,
But if they had knowledge,
Yeah.
they're supposed to. It's just like you're an officer of the court, you see something, you say something, right?
well, but as an attorney myself,
You look the other way.
no, I don't want to say that, but you have to worry about, hearsay, and people make up things all the time, and
We'd be having things reported left and right.
yeah.
Well, and this is saying it's required within 15 days, so every and any rumor or hint of anything would result in a required ethics violation report. And 15 days is not that much time to even, for somebody to be required to turn something around in 15 days that was possibly a rumor they heard. I agree with you. I feel like it should be firsthand knowledge or personal knowledge, so that,
I could also carve out an exception in that where we talk about, I can say that the person should make a report if they have knowledge, but it's only a shall if they have like personal knowledge. If that makes sense, because
Right.
this is going to come back to the person complaining in the end, the person that's saying, like, if you failed to act, now you're in trouble because you had knowledge, but you're like, well, I might have heard something, but I didn't feel like it rose to the level of, I didn't have personal knowledge, so I didn't feel like I had a duty to report it. I could see that being a problem.
and it would be vague enough that someone might not know what it is they're supposed to report on. And if you change it to personal knowledge or firsthand knowledge, that doesn't mean you can't report
Right,
something that's
exactly.
a rumor, so it doesn't eliminate
Right.
that possibility if someone hears something and wants to.
Right.
It's just the requirement would only fall if it was firsthand knowledge.
Right. That's how I was looking at that.
Mike?
Yes, I agree with that. What do you think?
I agree with changing it to personal knowledge or firsthand
Firsthand
knowledge.
knowledge? Okay. Yeah, let's go with that.
What about maybe putting in a statement about if you have other knowledge that you should, but it's not not mandatory,
I think so. Would that be more to what you're wanting, or no?
No, I mean,
No.
I'm a hard, to the line, if you F up, hey, that's it, and then there's no gray area, and this is all gray, the majority of it is, and so, I'm outvoted anyway, so.
I like should, shall.
Okay.
It wouldn't hurt to put in the should.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the should for knowledge and shall for personal knowledge, for firsthand knowledge.
Okay.
And I'll clean that up to make sure it works in the red line version, of course. Maybe something like your encouraged report. We encourage you to report if you've heard something or you have some knowledge, but only if you have personal knowledge. Shall you
Yeah,
report?
we don't want to scare people away from stepping up to hold positions
Sure.
out of fear of they can't do,
All right.
skipped over, but I didn't find a whole lot of the issues, and with the former city officers, employees, that's rare that that's gonna come up. Persons doing business with the city, let's see. This is that section I was referring to earlier about, people that are not really part of the city, but are doing business with the city, and how they can be beholden to this body. Yeah, members of the public and others.
Sorry, Doug, where are you?
Sorry,
14.
I'm just kind of reading through,
Okay.
page 14, yeah. I'm just looking through my notes. I don't have any really changes suggested on these sections or subdivision 6, financial disclosure. Then getting into subdivision 7, the Ethics Commission, several changes, or, well, mainly just one big one here. This is point of clarification. Section 2-272, structure of the Ethics Commission. So the composition, section B, composition, the Ethics Commission shall consist of 7 members, and each member of the council shall appoint 1 member of the commission, subject to the approval by a majority vote of the council. The problem I have with that term appoint,
Yeah.
I don't feel like the
Should nominate, really.
that, right, well, and I was thinking just adding, shall recommend for appointment.
Okay.
So, council shall recommend for appointment 1 member of the commission, subject to the approval by a majority vote. And that has to be done throughout, see section C, commission members shall be appointed to 3-year terms to serve concurrently with the, recommending council member's term. And then down on F, vacancies, the council member who appoints, the council member who recommended appointing, well, I'll figure out how to make that work grammatically. But basically just taking where it says appoint and making it clear that it's a recommendation, not an actual appointment.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's been a problem at all with the city, but I saw that, and I want to be more clear, so. And that's not really changing the substance at all, it's just making it.
No, that's just clearing it up.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's
G, recusal, same thing, that's several times in there, members, appointee, recommended appointee. I'll just go through and make sure that that's clarified throughout. Let's see.
Yeah, there's appointee again.
Going down to page 21. This is part of the overall section 2-274 complaints. And so looking at E, confidentiality. One of the things I was thinking about, and the term that came to my mind is Bill of Rights. So no city officer or employee shall reveal information relating to the filing or processing of a complaint except as required for the performance of official duties. And what I'm thinking about here is a situation where the person being complained against could be a city officer or employee who may also have a First Amendment right to state their case or to defend themselves. And I don't know if there's any willingness with the commission to maybe add a whole different section at somewhere where it would basically be the accused person's Bill of Rights, what they can and can't do if they are accused of something. That to me would seem to clarify potential constitutional issues. If someone is being complained against and they say somebody complained about me or they want to defend themselves, well, they have a First Amendment right to do that. And I think that goes beyond what this code says you can and can't do. And so, I mean, I can work on something like that, just saying if you're an accused person and you happen to be a city employee, here's what you can and cannot say.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
I don't know, I'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I was thinking would be helpful. I think clearly the intent of that section is like, say, if Jennifer received a complaint and then divulged information related to the complaint that wasn't involving her, you know, that's I think what that's about. It's about employees who are handling the complaint, not divulging that information. But if you're the one that's being accused of something, I think at the end of the day, you still have that right to defend yourself. And I don't think that this code can take that away, and so we should probably clarify that somewhere.
Would that be before it comes to this commission or
I
during?
think it would just be a whole separate section, maybe at the end, that talks about if you're an accused person, here's what your rights are, and
okay,
just
Bill
kind of
of
a
Rights.
restatement of what your constitutional rights already are, just to clarify that, so that if someone make a complaint about confidentiality, well, you know, you're the accused person, you have certain rights, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's good, thank you.
Okay, so I'll try to add something. And then down there, bottom of page 21, G, assistance. So, city secretary shall provide information to persons who inquire about the process for filing a complaint. That can be, you know, construed with, or conflated rather, of her having to give advice. I think providing information, providing advice are two different things. There might be value in preparing some sort of form template that people could fill out that would kind of help them. She could just give to an individual who wants to make a complaint, and then they can figure it out. And she's not having to answer a bunch of questions about how to do this and how to do that. Well, fill this form out. So I can work on something like that.
Yeah, I think that there was concern over
Yeah.
not having any help with the process of filling it out.
Yeah, I mean,
So a form like that would, if it were like a clear step-by-step form, so
Yeah.
that she doesn't have to, yeah, because advice is entirely different than, yeah.
it protects the city secretary.
Absolutely,
I think.
yep, yeah,
Because where's that line?
right,
And then people expect her to do more than she really needs to, or should be having to do under the code. So perhaps I can refer to a form that I can then draft, and then I think it would be, I'll have to think about how to do that, but it wouldn't be built into the code. It would be referencing to something else.
yeah, just like a.
Which form would hit all the,
step-by-step.
yeah, it would hit all the like the form of a complaint, you know, sworn to, and the types of violations, the names of people, your phone number, that sort of thing. So that way it's all cleared out, so we're not rejecting a complaint when we get it.
Yeah.
I know it's happened in the past where
Right.
someone doesn't meet the form, it gets sent back. Well, at least that would ensure that if they fill out the form properly,
Yeah,
it would be accepted at
Right.
least.
So do you have a verbiage suggestion here, or is your solution to just create that form?
Mainly to create that form.
Okay.
that she
Or,
could just hand out, yeah.
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 And that's information. That
Well,
falls under information.
there's going to be a verbiage change too.
Yeah.
Could it just say shall provide procedural information?
Well, the procedure is
Yeah.
in 274B.
I mean, that's one way to do it. I think, yeah, I mean, because that's how I look at that. It's not, she's not providing advice, she's providing information.
Isn't it
About-
providing steps or something of that nature?
Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, this is really just the big question. I mean, how much do you want to put on the city secretary to be involved in that process, I guess?
Well, I mean, to me, her position is only like, here's the form, here's the
Right.
steps, give it back to me, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. It's not anything further than that.
That's kind of how I feel about it too, and I think that's, I'll have to reword it a little bit, maybe like referencing a form or something like that, but it would be, try to take that burden off of her.
Right, and we don't have a form now,
No.
so creating a form would give additional sort of step-by-step help to somebody that wouldn't create any burden on the secretary. Yeah,
Right.
it would kind of solve both problems.
And it'll make it clear when you're going through their addendum or whatever their attachment is, what the actual issue is.
Right.
Instead of having to kind of read through. what's
Right.
in
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. Section 2-278 on page 24, disposition. This is one that I could really go either way on. It's kind of awkward to draft findings of fact and conclusions of law in a situation where the commission dismisses something, especially if they're dismissed as frivolous, not frivolous, lacking merit. It's just difficult to try to find the words for that in a findings of fact, conclusions of law. Usually that's something that I would think that in the case where there is a finding that somebody did something wrong, you'd want to spell out what it was the commission decided on. But if you're just dismissing it for lacking merit, I don't know if a finding of fact and conclusions of law is necessary. But it can go either way. I mean, it can just be a short and sweet findings of fact and conclusions of law, which is what the commission's done in the past when they do dismiss something. And that would, of course, and that's fine. I just kind of wanted some feedback on that if you had some feedback on that.
We need to put a stamp of finality on the process that we're dealing with, and I think your conclusions of fact works well for that.
Okay, so then we'll keep it the way it is then.
Yes, I would.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Is there something in here that notifies the person that files the complaint of the,
That's the very next thing I was going to talk about.
I was gonna
Okay.
say, 'cause that's what I have.
Top of 25, B, notification.
okay,
Copies of the opinion shall be forwarded to the to the complainant, the respondent, the ethics compliance officer, and any member of the ethics commission who did not participate in the disposition of the case. Forwarded by who?
that's a good question.
I mean, after the findings of fact and conclusions of law are issued, I think that section would be remedied just by adding in, who is the person that's supposed to do that.
Yeah,
And I mean, you could put that on the city secretary, you can put it on the chairman, on the compliance officer.
So we would forward the conclusion of fact that you send us to the complainant? Is that what you're suggesting?
What you approve, yeah. What the final disposition is would then need to be forwarded to that complainant.
Okay, if we were to put that on the chairman, we would have to have contact information for the complainant. Would that be any kind of a problem?
Well, I would actually recommend that it'd be the city secretary that does it, because the city secretary's already had contact with the complainant to some extent.
I agree that it should be, yeah, sorry.
Well, we're dumping a lot on the city secretary.
Yeah.
23rd, I just got it signed today. It's only been finally signed today at this meeting. So
Oh, okay.
if it's gonna be me, which is fine if it is, I would like some,
I was gonna ask them the fact on how many days after signature and everything would it be required? Because, I mean, on here, there's so many there's 90 days for filing of the complaint, or 15 days for the complaint, then 90 days, and then there's a 30 days if we need additional information. There's also a 45 days here if we have questions from you as the lawyer, and so there's a lot of dates on here on what is required, and I think that was kind of what one of the issues with Councilmember Flores Kale was, like, I wasn't notified. And so how many days do we have until we notify the complainant on what our decision was?
Well, I think that could be solved by just putting in a time for notification after it's been decided.
I mean, if it's 30 days after all our signatures, or is it required to have all our signatures before it's posted publicly? Things like that. That was my questions.
Well, the televised is shown before we all sign.
But not knowing, because I know for a fact that Councilmember Flores Cale didn't even know we were doing that on that day. She may have missed it. I don't know the reasoning for it, but she wasn't
Well, I
even
think
aware
she's-
that we
I
were.
think she's right in that they should be notified. I mean, I think Yvonne is right that there should be a
Yeah,
notification.
and
We
that's
just
all
need to
I-
decide who gives it and in what time frame.
And you don't know what a person's personal daily life, if they're able to see it or even go look on it, just how many days after we make our decision are they the written notification is to them. That's all I'm
Yeah.
getting clarification on.
Would that be any different than conclusion of fact and just writing her into the distribution list?
I'm just trying to figure out the ruling on it, the law. I know it's after all of our, however many days it is that you can post it publicly. If it's prior to that or at the same time, as long as that person has the proper days of notification.
What would you consider proper time?
No more than 30 days is my opinion
From the,
from our decision, but
From our decision or from when we all sign?
that's the other question.
Okay, yeah.
Well, from a legal standpoint, is there a difference?
I mean, the findings of fact conclusions of law are something that you have to approve. I get some direction from you, what you want in it, but, I mean, you have to all sign it, of course. So I think maybe there should be a time after that's finally signed, but I think there also should be a time for issuing the findings of fact and conclusions of law after the decision. So I'm looking at 2-278A, the written opinion part again, where it talks about the commission shall issue a decision within 90 days after the filing of a complaint. And then I'm thinking maybe the next line where it says the Ethics Commission shall state in a written opinion its findings of fact and conclusions of law within 30 days. And then under the notification section, within 15 days after it's been signed, just to give the secretary a couple weeks to distribute it. I don't know.
That sounds good.
I don't know why they have to be different, though. It's not like we're in horse and buggy days. If you post something on the internet or you email it, it's immediate.
Well,
Does it have to be postmarked?
Well, he's saying that his findings and conclusions have to be approved by us. We have to sign them before they can actually be legally sent out to someone as a final. So,
So we'd have a timeline on our signatures.
correct. That's basically what we get. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why the 90 days is for that, because
Well,
it's 30 days for our decision, and then I know it says 45 days for legal interpretation. I believe it says,
But to accept the complaint.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, but on the top of 2-278, it's 90 days after the complaint's been filed, the commission has to issue a decision. So you've got 90 days to make a decision. And then I'm thinking after that, you should have maybe 30 days to sign
Yeah.
the findings of fact and conclusions of law,
Okay.
once you make your decision. And so
then-
that requires y'all to come in and physically sign.
right,
And then after that,
15 days for it to be distributed
I'm
from
just
the
spitballing
secretary.
that out there. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, or it could
I
be
mean, that
immediate
sounds
or
reasonable.
within a reasonable amount of time after.
Right, yeah.
That's interpretation.
I don't
Yeah.
like reasonable.
Yeah.
Or we can put
Do
a
we need a
week
clause,
date.
though, if somebody doesn't sign within that 30 day, that it's an assumption, it's almost like,
like you
When-
accept, you agree to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad idea,
Yeah,
I like that.
because you've already voted on it essentially.
Right,
Right,
there's a
yeah.
record.
Is there a requirement of, all the signatures have to be there? Yeah, so,
I mean, that's not really,
I mean, if somebody was out of town or,
I mean, I have to look, maybe I missed it somewhere. I'm not sure if that's really even a requirement that
Yeah.
that your signatures are all on there. I think that I just drafted that out of abundance of caution. And that's just how I done it in the past. Usually when you have a findings of fact, conclusions of law for any sort of, trial court, or, you'd have the judge sign it, but you're all kind of the judges in a way. But there could be one of you that dissents and doesn't want to agree to that. So, I mean, in that case, you don't sign. If it's already been a majority vote to dismiss or to sanction somebody, that one person who doesn't want to agree to it, I mean, why should they have to sign it? So, I
Right.
mean, I think that you're right. I mean, it doesn't need to, there's no requirement that you all sign it inherently.
Well, in the
X amount of
record,
day signing period.
the record is the vote.
Yeah, it's just, the code says you have to give a written opinion
Yeah.
in addition to what
right,
you're,
there has to be a written,
yeah. And so we could change that to where it just, the chairman signs it. Or, I mean, it's however you want to spell it out. I mean, fortunately, it's been unanimous decisions in the recent history, but that may not always be the
That
case.
may not all be, yeah.
So,
Well, this should
Unless
give
the
us-
chairman
this-
dissents.
well, that's true too. I mean, maybe
Well,
think
I don't
about that a
think
little bit.
everybody should have to sign it. I agree with you there. And if we want to take a vote on whether or not it's just the chairman, that's fine with me.
Well, I mean, are you saying that everybody should have to sign it in order for it to be released to the person who filed the complaint, or they don't have to sign it ever?
Well, I mean, kind of went down a rabbit hole here, but I
Yeah.
think that what we need to figure out first is how much time should the commission have to issue its findings of fact, conclusions of law. That's the first thing. So I'm thinking 30 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now in terms of,
Sorry, do you have to say business days?
I mean, it just says, everything else just says days.
Days,
So
okay.
I think we just leave it at that. I'll just make a note of that. But,
So are you saying 30 days for, section 2-278, A, instead of the 90 days?
no, so that
Okay.
first thing, the 90 days stays there. That's to issue the decision after the complaint.
Okay.
The second line, the Ethics Commission shall state in a written opinion its findings of fact and conclusions of law within 30 days.
Okay.
Something like that, or I may
Right.
change it a little bit, but, so 90 days to make a decision, 30 days to issue the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Now, I gotta figure out the signing thing, but I can kind of take a look at that and maybe come up with some ideas for next time, unless you you have some ideas now you wanna give me that I can run with. That may be a different section, how I build that in.
Well, could it be that the chairman signs, but if there's somebody dissenting, that there's a line that they're not, so that their opinion is,
Well, that's
they're not
kind
gonna
of
write
like
a
a
dissent,
protest.
but they're gonna sign it that they did not agree.
Yeah, we shouldn't hold it up for a protest.
Yeah.
The only hiccup I would imagine with that is if the chairman does not vote in favor of the opinion.
The chairman or the vice chair.
Perhaps it just be as simple as just those that are voting in this way are the ones that sign it. Whichever way that is, the majority of the votes, those are the ones that sign. And maybe there could be just a line for those that are voting no, as just a footnote to the opinion or to the findings of fact, conclusions of law.
Following the signature of the majority voters, basically, is what you're talking about.
Yeah, so just, yeah, the majority that vote will sign to approve that, and then maybe just a line for people that don't approve it.
Well, that sounds pretty complicated.
Well, and that still doesn't solve the problem of the 30 days that she brought up. If somebody, it can't, like, say somebody's out of town, or, you know, you've got a funeral and you're gone, and you cannot get in that time period for whatever reason, that doesn't solve that there could be a missing signature, whether it was the approval or the disapproval signature.
Yeah, I mean,
And her solution was that if you can't sign it within 30 days, that you're either just assumed to agree or,
yeah.
I mean, I guess there would need to be some sort of required signature, maybe it's required to be signed by the chair and vice chair.
Chair and or vice chair?
Or, yeah, the same.
Yeah, I mean,
I would go with that.
unless you can find a way that it doesn't get held up, if there's somebody who can't sign within that 30-day time period, that it doesn't get held up, where the wording, it can still get distributed to the person who filed the complaint, even if it's missing a signature or two.
Which is the whole point we're trying to solve.
Because they would still come back and sign, they're still gonna sign when they're able, it just wouldn't necessarily be signed when it got distributed, otherwise it could get held up to be distributed.
Can we accept electronic signatures?
Right. DocuSign?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I mean, that would solve the whole problem
Yeah.
of not having to come in and sign,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
And if a person can't double click that,
Yeah.
then perhaps they should question their
Would that
service
be
on the
easier
commission.
to do DocuSign? Would that be easier for you to do DocuSign?
You're not picking on us old people.
We don't use DocuSign.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
But, I mean, we've accepted plenty of electronic signatures.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, you still could have the problem of somebody who just doesn't want to sign, I mean, willfully neglecting to do that, but that'd become a different issue.
So how about the requirement to be sent out to the person who filed the complaint? It needs either the chair or vice chair to sign it, to get it sent out to notify the person who filed the complaint of what the decision was. And then
Sure.
we all have to
Yeah.
sign it eventually,
Yeah, I mean, you
for
could,
records purposes.
might be even easier is just to, within that document itself, just stating these are the ones that voted to go this direction, here's the ones that voted this way. The chair is just signing it, saying this is what happened, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's good.
But then I guess if the chair disagrees with the wording
You
of
can
the
do
findings
chair or
of
vice
fact.
chair.
Yeah,
Unless
So-
they both
A
disagree.
suggestion.
Sure.
I mean, for the city council.
I mean, you can go
even
on
if
down the
mayor
line
were
with
to
that,
vote
though.
against it, He's the signatory, so he signs off on things even if he voted against it, because he's the signatory for the
Yeah.
group. And so if we wanted to put a section that listed the chairman as the signatory for the group,
I think that's a great
That's what we
idea.
did
Yeah,
in
that's a
planning
good
and
idea.
zoning. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how the
Right,
chairman
that's a good
voted.
idea.
He still signs it.
Yeah, this is just
That's the most
what was
efficient
decided
That's
and who
his,
voted
that's
what
his
way.
duty.
that would make it a lot easier, because I can just add a line saying somewhere in here, the chairman shall be the signatory for the findings of fact, conclusions of law.
Yeah, that
That's fine.
works.
Okay, let's do that.
and we could add that in there, you know, if you wanted to put like who voted, we could put like a roll call vote type thing. We do that all the time for
Right.
like bond voting and stuff like that, so.
Okay. Getting back to the notification, so after that document is signed by the chairman, how much time shall we give the city secretary to relay that, forward that to the complainant, the respondent?
I think at most a week.
You don't think 15 days?
I
She
would
could be on
say
vacation.
I think.
Or designee. Sorry, I don't know how deep the bench is for the city of Kyle. Maybe there is no designee. I think that I think that all parties involved deserve to have information as
Right.
expeditiously as possible.
Okay. So one way we could do that, copies of the opinion shall be forwarded by the city secretary or their designee to the complainant, the respondent, its compliance officer, any member of the commission who did not participate. Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm putting on my legal hat. Do we need to say how it's forwarded?
I think it's okay just to leave it
Okay.
broad. Some of these things come in via email. There's a lot of email communication, and you know, the law for the longest time has required, you know, certified mail or personal service for things, but we've seen a shift in the last decade or so of service through email to be just generally considered acceptable.
Okay.
I think if they're availing their email address in the complaint that they're filing, which I mean, they if they don't provide that, I think that, you know, it would be, you want to mail it to them. But however, whatever they provide.
I was gonna suggest that it's in the form, in the complaint form,
Yeah.
like I would like to be contacted by, or, you know, provided service by this method, because I have received them by email, and I've also received them where they needed me to notarize their complaint, and so they're in person, and then, in which case I may not have any contact information for them. If it's on the complaint form, their contact information, then I at least have a couple of methods to take care of that requirement.
That's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that's it for me.
In section 2-279, it says that the ethics compliance officer shall put their opinion on the city's website for 5 years.
Which one was that again?
2-279. And while it's a nice sentiment, you don't have access to our website.
This is it right?
It's the last sentence.
It might also be, there's a place where, there's a few places we might need to do a search where it says posted to the city's website for 5 years. And I think anywhere it says that should probably say city secretary. I mean, the city secretary has always been the liaison to this commission.
Probably for that last sentence, the ethics compliance officer shall promptly provide to the city secretary or something like that for posting, to be posted. I can work on that grammar, but.
And the other thing I was gonna mention is there are some forms already adopted into the ordinance for financial disclosure. And so perhaps this complaint form could be adopted in a similar way. The one thing that I have noticed though is that those forms, even though they're listed as exhibits in the ordinance, they're not actually on our code anywhere for the public to see.
Okay.
Like when you download this, it's not at the end of it.
Okay.
I could work with our codification service to include those attachments.
Yeah.
But it was just that maybe we can handle those consistently, the forms.
Use Unicode, right? That's the, yeah. I think they have ways to just link to the forms probably.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, but your voice doesn't carry very much.
Sorry.
What are we talking about?
I was saying that for financial disclosures, there's some exhibits that are already adopted into this code of ethics.
Yeah.
And so the complaint form could be adopted as an exhibit to the code of ethics, the same way that these other couple of forms are adopted in. And then I was mentioning that those forms didn't make it to the code. It references them, that they were adopted, exhibits A and B. There's a full financial disclosure report form, and then there's a short form that's also approved, but they're not in the code for the public to see. They're just blank forms, you know, but you would at least see what's required. And that way also the complaint form that's developed would be adopted in that same method and be available online.
So if you, let's say I want to go look for the form because I had a hard time trying to find all this and stuff, even though you had sent it, and I went online to try to play with it myself on like, where would I find all these ethics codes and everything. So on the form, is there a way that those forms have the link to the actual codes if
There's-
needed for further instructions or definition and things like that?
The two forms that we currently have adopted with this ethics code are not actually on the public website. They were attached to the ordinance uncodified, but when we sent it in to be put into our code of ordinances, they're not, I didn't locate them. So that's what I'm saying is that when we come back with these amendments, that we would attach all of those in our code for public availability.
But if like, would it be a possibility with being able to add that link saying if you need further description or definition, click on here and it'll take you to the 30 pages?
section.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we should, I mean, we can do that. I don't know if our service on the code page, because it's not, it's a third party. So I'd have to explore with them what they can do.
You're referring to the form, like on the form itself?
Yeah,
you know,
so
the-
you would go to the form itself, you'll have like a little blip that for a very summary, but if you need further explanation or further, here's the link to, that will take you to
Okay.
the 30 pages.
Yeah. That shouldn't be hard to do. I mean, that wouldn't be, I mean, that, we could adopt that as part of the ordinance, but then you'd have to like.
If we worked on the form on our own side, I could definitely put those links in and put that on the Ethics Commission page, like a complaint form, to where it's clickable to the code. I can do that.
I'm just worried for someone to be able to make sure they're not making that mistake of trying to submit something and realizing, oh, that's not really what this doesn't fall under that. That way they understand it. And it's easier, because I had a hard time trying to locate everything. And if you don't know exactly where to go, then someone's going to make a big mistake.
Even right now with us not having a form, if somebody says I'd like to make a complaint, I send them the link directly to where it spells out exactly what the complaint has to have in it. It has all the requirements right there.
Okay.
So
Anything else? I'm sorry, was there something else?
No, that's all I've gone through all my notes. You don't have anything that you wanted to offer?
Anyone have any other comments? Okay, I would suggest we take what Mr. Montgomery has provided for us and make a recommendation that he take these items that we approve, rewrite the code, give us a red line addition, and we approve the red line addition in a future meeting. Does anyone disagree with that?
No.
Just the note that we approve it. We might have further changes.
That's true. So,
Finalize.
well, the motion would be, for right now, that we let him give us a first draft red line and review the first draft red line in a future meeting.
Perfect.
That is my motion.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further comment on it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The vote is unanimous. Now, do we need to talk about a future date, or should we wait for you to get back to us?
I mean, we can talk about it now, it's easier for everybody just to keep your calendars out and decide when will be a good time to meet. I'd like, a little bit of time, just because I've got a lot of things on my plate too, but, within a month or so, that'd be reasonable for everybody, if we want to do shorter.
I think in here it says you have 45 days.
This is a little bit different situation. But, when you give me 45 days, I'll take it. I shouldn't need that much time, but.
I would like to hold the second meeting within, say, 30 days if possible. After that, I'll be unavailable.
October is really hard for me with work. I work extended hours, so I don't know if I'd be able to.
We can have another one of those polls you send out, maybe?
Okay.
Okay.
We couldn't put this beyond October, could we, or?
Yeah, there's no deadline.
There's no
for
timeline
this.
on it,
This is
okay.
This is just.
So
your
there's no rush to
revisions.
do it in September,
Okay.
and I guess you're unavailable after the 12th.
I'm available like towards the end of October, but
Yeah,
the first
we
few
do
weeks.
elections.
So maybe mid-November then?
Yeah, mid-November would
before the
work fine.
holidays.
That'd be good.
Do you want to try to look at an actual date right now, or you want to still do a poll?
I think we still need to do a poll, yeah.
Or sometime in mid-November, yeah, because October would be difficult for me too.
And also after the election's over, we may have a new member. So maybe that would be a good thing.
Yeah, it probably would be, get their input if you're making changes.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
All right.
Well, that's assuming, there's the election, but then they're gonna have to recommend and appoint. Actually, we probably wouldn't have somebody by then. I don't know how quickly they're gonna appoint whoever gets elected. They may do it right away, they might, I don't, supposed to do it right away, I guess, but, it might, practically speaking, it might take at least a couple of
Yeah.
meetings.
There's a lot of variability,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at least the option is there, possibility is there.
Correct. Well, and if we have another meeting and that you still have more revisions, we might have to have another meeting after that, so.
Right. Okay, well, let's go with that. We'll shoot for the middle of November tentative date.
Okay.
Are there any other issues that we need to cover today? Anyone have any comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
A second.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.